Welcome back to another episode of the Budget Overland Podcast. I'm your host, Benji, and today we're just kind of a nice, chill conversation. A guy named Charlie reached out to me and said, Benji, I'd love to come on the podcast. He's been in the Facebook group for a while, and he's a Toyota guy, so he's cool. And for all you Jeep guys out there, I'm not just like 100%, Toyota guy, which I am, but I still love the Jeep guys. So if you want to come on the show, don't feel like you have to have a Toyota. But anyway, without further ado, we got Charlie in the house. How's it going, brother?
Good, man. Good. It's going good.
So, how long have you been in the Budget Overland group? It's been a minute, right?
Yeah. So man, I couldn't tell you. I joined right before Big Iron last year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So a couple years in Budget Overland for sure.
Yeah. And then how long have you been listening to the podcast?
Pretty much since its inception.
Oh, nice. Cool. So
Yeah.
you've got the old stuff too.
Oh yeah, I've got like the OG sticker on the cooler and
OG
stuff.
sticker, which
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're rocking a third gen Tacoma. Anything
hmm
fancy about it? You want to tell us?
It's pretty well built at this point. But it's just an SR5, so no lockers. I previously had a second gen Tacoma,
Nice.
Pro, and got rid of it and went to a full size, which I had at Big Iron last year. I had a Nissan Titan that I had built out, thinking that I'd like that better for like hunting out west, and
hmm
then kind of found myself in Arkansas camping a lot more and went back to a Tacoma. So it's
Sweet.
pretty, it's built. It's rooftop tent and racks and solar and extra power and I mean it's the normal stuff, GMRS,
Yeah. So
typical
lifted
stuff.
or anything crazy on the
Yeah,
way?
so it's just a 3 inch lift in the front, and it's actually a 2.5 lift in the back with I have Iron Man heavy duty springs in the
Yeah.
back because I got the deck system and I got a 75 liter Dometic fridge, so a big fridge. Um,
Those deck systems are really cool. And honestly, one day, hopefully, I'd like to build out a third gen Tacoma. That's been on my radar for a while. I just, with all today's vehicle selection, there's quite a bit. But being a Toyota person, having the older stuff sucks, kind of. To be honest, because you're always throwing money at parts and stuff. To a point, and then aftermarket support and stuff. It's kind of like, oh, they discontinued those. So anyway, like the newer platforms, there's a ton of stuff for it. The racks, there's tons of racks for them, body armor, whatever. But like the deck system would be super cool, and then you could throw stuff on top of that, and then if you put your rooftop tent on this, I just think it's really handy from how this stuff is really amplified, and these companies are just coming up with really crazy stuff, and I love it. I love seeing all this new stuff that, especially at the expos, that people are cranking out. It's fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of. But for sure, trucks are definitely on my radar for the next platform. And you said you do some hunting out of it. Is how long are your
yeah, so
excursions?
so yeah, I do a little bit of bow. I pretty predominantly bow hunt. So
Mm,
I have like a larger Pelican on my like Prinsu on the roof, and my bow will fit in that and stuff. Um, and my previous truck had a deck system, so I'm actually kind of like pretty deep into decked for like a lot of money at this point. It's my second one, so I don't like to admit that too much, but
uh,
um, I did have one in my full size, but so I do a little bit of bow hunting, deer hunting, so and that was one of my probably my segues into my most recent chapter of I guess overlanding,
yeah.
camping kind of deal.
Well, let's go back to when it started for you. Either were you like a backpacker, or were you just kind of an outdoorsman, and then just stumbled across the overland. Just go ahead and just walk us
Yeah.
through this process.
So, so I actually was in the Marine Corps, and that took me out to. I was stationed in 29 Palms. So I was out in 29 Palms, which is about 20 minutes from Joshua Tree,
Nice.
which is a pretty solid, public land area. So I started by backpacking. I was doing backpack camping, is what I did start doing. I started backpacking at Joshua Tree, and deployed a couple of times. I was in the infantry, so I deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. Came back from all that, and on my way out of the Marine Corps, and this would be 2010, got myself a Dodge Dakota V8 four-wheel drive, and
Nice.
that's kind of when I started. Really, honestly, it was 2010. Out of the Rubbermaid tubs and the
Hmm.
bungee cargo net in the back, and we go out to Joshua Tree. So that's about when I started. Um, then I kind of got into I guess, more of the rock crawling type stuff. I moved to Lake Tahoe. I was like, I'm already in California, so when in Rome. So I moved to Lake Tahoe, which is about 10 hours away from 29 Palms, and then got up there and was amidst all the like the snow community.
Yeah.
And so everybody had, 40s and 42s and 44s and Exode Toyotas and
You
stuff.
go
So
down the Rubicon Trail at all with your Dakota?
no, I didn't do any of that stuff. I mean, I did some riding, I did some drinking, I did a
Right.
little bit of that, but
Not like
no,
that's
no,
so yeah,
nothing
because you'd
crazy.
have to have pretty much 37s, 40s. I mean, I've seen guys do
Oh
it in
yeah,
35s and 33s, but the buggies and the crawlers and stuff, that's pretty cool.
yeah.
I've
It
not
was
been out there, but the Toyota Tyler and Jimmy from the Snail Trail 4x4 Off Road podcast, they're always talking about it. They're like, you know what? We're always doing this, and when people come out here for the first time, we just get excited again. I'm like, well, I'll get you excited one of these days when I come out there, but I'm not bringing my third gen for sure. My
it's
Toyota 4Runner.
definitely it's definitely a different world. And even now that I'm into like overlanding, like there's that, which is a convoluted term at best.
Sure. Yeah,
Um,
we've all heard that episode, and we all have different processes of it. We're all
yeah,
tired of it. It is what it is. So
right. But those guys get wild up there with their. I mean, I,
I,
I see 40s becoming popular again, and I'm like, man, it was like 2011, and a 42 and a 44 was like a normal deal
yeah,
back
that's
then. So,
crazy.
um, but anyways, from there, moved back to Missouri. Um, ironically, lived in a like a fifth wheel camper trailer for a year. So
Nice.
that would be like 2012, and then pretty much stopped the hobby of camping at that point for a little bit, and got into racing cars.
No kidding.
Um, yeah, so I had a couple of I did some LS cars. For those of you that don't know, like Chevy LS platformed cars. I did some drag racing, and then got into the newer Mustang 5.0s, and then actually switched gears as we all get bored and started messing with Subarus. So I had some
Okay.
STIs.
Okay.
Um, and then from there, had had my first daughter, and she kind of showed some interest in camping, and that kind of flipped me back
Nice.
into the hobby now. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Very cool. So, your car guy background, all that fun stuff.
Hmm.
Really cool. So are you more of like the wheeling aspect, the journey aspect, or like the camping aspect, or all three? I guess. I mean, what's the drive for you? What motivates you to go do this stuff?
So I really like I mean, I definitely like the camping aspect, but I definitely don't mind driving. So I don't dislike the like road trip aspect of it either.
Hmm.
Um, as far as the wheeling, I'm not much into that just because I've been a car guy for so long and broken so much stuff. I'm just not
Yeah.
interested in fixing stuff. Like
Yeah.
if I could find something that was uber reliable while, you know, doing that, potentially I'd be more into that. I don't know, but I'm not interested in breaking anything at this point.
I'm not either, and I think that's the fine line between like you could call it rock landing or whatever, but back I always called it like the off road community or whatever. Like those guys, they go out and thrash. Not all of them drink beer and just, but most of them, some of them do. But I'm just saying they're a rowdy crowd, and then us overlanders or whatever kind of get the old man kind of stigma that comes with it because I have an Instagram account that I barely get on. Some people are following me. It's Slow Yoda, and I'm barely on there. And it's slow for a reason. I don't hit stuff going 5-10 miles an hour. I'm not hammering down on stuff. I know my limitations. It's an expensive hobby as it is. So if you go out there and break stuff every trip, that's just stupid. So I'm kind of like you, and I think a lot of people can relate. I like to go out and find trail that is doable, somewhat sketchy, but not like stupid. if that makes sense. I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
that's fun. Some guys are for service road guys, and that's fine too. But yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, I'm totally comfortable in low range, like you're saying.
Mm,
Like I want it to be. I don't want to go. It's not much of a fun camp if like everybody in the world can get there for me.
exactly,
So
exactly.
yeah, but I'm not interested in bumping off of stuff and rev limiting
Mm.
on stuff. I mean, I've done it. Don't get me wrong, I've been there, but that's how I know that's not where I want to continue to be.
So and we just found this out. Well, I just found this out like before we started the recording that you're in Columbia, Missouri, and I'm down south of you about an hour and a half, probably 2 hours near Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And are you big into like the Mark Twain National Forest around here? Or are you more of like the Arkansas Ozarks kind of stuff, the Wachitas and all that stuff?
So yeah, so I've done Mark Twain like Glade Top Trail and stuff like that a couple times, but I actually find myself going down to Arkansas a lot more, like so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a couple friends I met at Big Iron last year, and they're from Bentonville.
Oh,
So
nice.
we link up at times. I go mostly alone, but if I do go down there, I'll link up with them. But I also really like the Buffalo. I mean, I love the
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo River. So I've done a lot of camping and wheeling along the Buffalo, like a ton actually.
That's
So I
really
really
cool.
find myself there a lot more, really.
So and we'll bounce off each other here back and forth. I'm not hijacking your podcast by any means, and it is your podcast because you are my guest, and I try to make everyone feel like that. I'm just joking.
You're good, Dean.
I know. I just try to make you feel awkward. It's all good, man. No, so like the Buffalo, I usually go south of there. So like where's Mulberry Mountain area. So like all that where Oart Cafe is. You go over to Seven. You go to the eastern side of the Ozarks. I always meet up with Jacob and Taylor, and we always kind of find new trails. Sometimes it's something that's already there, and I just love the rural area, all the areas of Arkansas that's kind of like, it's the natural state. So it's like it's pretty much untouched. You can see houses that were built in the late 1800s, and there's people still living in them. It's just like it's pretty cool, and like old gas pumps everywhere. It's just a throwback. But from my house to get into like the heart of the Ozarks, it's probably about a 4 to 5 hour trip for me. So like the Buffalo is a lot closer. I would say I could get there in about 2.5, 3 hours, maybe if I'm taking my time. So I'd like to kind of explore the Buffalo area a little bit more. Got invited a couple weeks ago um, to camp on the Buffalo, and that was down. What was that little place called? Anyway, it was just right on the river, and it was July, and it was like 70 degrees, 75 degrees. It was like a really weird fluke for that time of year. So Tony with Bats Off Road invited me to go down there. Me and Off Road Brian went, and that was just a good time. It wasn't a crazy busy river. There was some floaters and stuff that went by, but it was just something about it, man. The bluffs and all that. It's gorgeous down there, and the water's nice too.
Yeah, really. I mean, I really do enjoy it. There is always some floaters going by, which is a lot more welcoming than being anywhere near cars.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, what's up, guys? And they're always like, hey, they're always a little surprised to see a car out there.
Are they like,
Um,
what's on your truck?
Sometimes, yeah, they are. They are. They're like, "What's that?" I get that question all the time when I'm down there with the rooftop tent. They're like, "What's that?" Big cargo box or whatever, and I'm like, "It folds out." And they're like,
Uh,
"How?" And I'm like, "Out. I don't know. I don't know. It folds out."
I always used to make fun of people from Arkansas, and I've told this maybe before on the podcast, but it's kind of like if you've seen Deliverance, that's in Arkansas, and we always make fun of them as hillbillies and stuff. But after doing this for a while, I've met a lot of really cool people from Arkansas, but it's still so very hard not to make fun of when you're down there,
Man,
especially when the tent. Hey, Daddy, what's that on his truck? It's hard to make fun of them, but I reset.
yeah, and I mean, I don't know. We're in Missouri, so I always say we're 5 hours from anywhere. No
Yeah,
matter
it's
how you
true.
spin it, like if you go east and you wanted to do Kentucky, or you wanted to do, or I mean, or if you want to go to the Smokies, or if you want to go to Colorado or Arkansas or even Disney, Oklahoma, like it's all 5 hours away. But I'll tell you, at least the nicest, most friendly people are in Arkansas. Although
Yeah.
you might question their educational background at times, they are the nicest folks.
You went there, I did not. And you also brought up their heritage too. They could all be first cousins for all we know. But hey, let's not.
They're nice though, but they're
They're
nice
totally
people.
nice. I might have to edit this part out. I don't want to lose all my friends in
No, you're
Arkansas.
fine. You're
So
fine.
I've been making fun of people from Kansas. I guess it's Arkansas's turn. So there you go.
You're good. But no, everybody, I've had great experiences, like having traveled to more places with the type of vehicle that we all drive. Like sometimes there are people that don't like you, in those areas. You go into a gas station and they're not interested in saying hello, and they're not interested in letting you know what's around particularly.
Hmm.
So it's nice to go to places where not only is there's a lot of ground to cover. They seem to be happy. They seem to be welcoming to you being there too. So that's
Hmm.
also extremely nice. I didn't have that much of that experience, as welcoming of an experience as somebody asking questions other places. So
Yeah.
I like Arkansas for that, for sure.
Yeah, they're super chill, and they love the tourist season too. That's their bread and butter. So, for the
Yeah,
most part, for most of those people. So,
yeah.
well, you've got a big trip coming up, a couple big trips, Big Iron and Rendezvous in the Ozarks. You want to talk about Big Iron a little bit, kind of what you enjoy and what you're anticipating for this year? Because there's if you've looked at the roster, it's quite a lot different. There's a lot of stuff going on. So
Yeah,
feel free to
so
talk
big
about last year and this year. Yeah.
last year. I don't know. Have you covered Big Iron last year on this at all?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Hold on.
brutal.
Last year, yeah, because yeah, there was that tornado that came through, and we had to wake up at like 1 in the morning just to leave. That was a joke, by the way. I wanted to get out of there. It was so hot, and
Yeah.
they were
We
calling
stayed
for our. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I was just I was just say yeah, we stayed through it, but I mean, everybody was called. You could call it a tornado. You could have called it an earthquake. You could have called it whatever. People were getting out of there. It was 100 million
Uh,
degrees.
yeah, so that was, and I've already talked about it last year. Like it was so hot. What was that? June, late June, something like that, mid June. It was toasty. But anyway, this year it should be really good. They're probably gonna be diesel heaters running this year because it's gonna be nice and cool for sure. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I'll be going out there. I'll meet up with a couple friends. Sounds like none of us will have kids, but it's definitely Big Iron is a unique event, especially being so close to Rito this year. 2 weeks
Yeah,
difference, completely different events though, and I think a lot of people associate them.
yeah,
Where Rendezvous is a great place that anybody can get to. I really like it. It's a good place to gain inspiration on what other people are using, because it's
hmm,
almost like a huge Rigs and Coffee meets music meets vendors, kind of an expo sort of.
yeah,
Um, so I like it for that. It's one event I do that I like, where I know I can not have to pack up my rooftop tent 4 days out of 4 days, and
yeah.
it's nice in that fashion. So I like it for the fact that it's extremely chill and it's a lot of people.
That could be someone else's con, but I think for the most part, it's I enjoy camping with other people, on trips. I like to have at least 4 to 5 other rigs if possible. I don't want to take 10 out, which I've done before, and that was a challenge just as far as me planning it, but that was a fun that totally worth it. But anyway, like the solo stuff, I'd rather go out with a group just because I enjoy the camaraderie, I enjoy the company and the conversations around the fire at night, and it's fun to just loosen up for a little bit before you go back to the grind, and it's to me I like that. Some people don't like that. Some people would be like, "Oh, I'm going to go camping by myself that weekend cuz no one's going to be in the woods." Okay, we'll go. That's fine too. I mean, everybody you do you, but I
Yeah.
enjoy these kind of, there's not a lot of events around this our area for sure that give you this
No.
opportunity. So that's really cool.
No, yeah, and I mean, I'd say I go alone. I mean, all but pretty much one other time a year outside of Big Iron and Rendezvous.
No,
But
really.
but because they're such big events, it's a good reason for my friends to get tickets and us
Hmm.
to meet up there, you know, because I'm sure
Yeah.
with you even as well, like it's extremely difficult to get together and plan a trip, and it's a big consideration if you've got, oh, we got 3 rigs, oh, maybe now we got 5 rigs, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, that 3 of these camp spots we're gonna stay at don't work anymore, like, so you
Yeah.
got to kind of pivot there. Or I've had it where I've got 5 people going and then everybody cancels and I'm like, well, I still want to go. So
That's
it's,
so stupid. So here's what I do, and I don't know how plentiful your friend lists are that like to go camping and wheeling, but I remember those things. So if old Johnny, I'm planning this trip, and old Johnny says, "Hey, guys, I can't make it this weekend. My wife said I gotta stay home." Well, I make a list that Johnny's a flake. So when I put Johnny down on the next time, I'll be like, "Okay, take it worth for a grain of salt. Cool. If we got a +1, that's Johnny." These. And I don't play around like that because it's like you said, you put a lot of time and effort into planning this stuff. It pisses me off when people just flake on you.
I
So
appreciate you saying that actually, because it's tough. And what makes me even more mad is when they do come, but then they're like, oh, I can't make it till Saturday.
yeah,
And
screw you.
I'm like, bro, like who knows what we might come upon on Friday that changes the entire, you know,
Hmm.
trajectory of the weekend, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, I'm kind of like you where it's almost hard because you're like, you want to be a steward of the hobby, you want to be an advocate, but at the same
Hmm.
time you're like, man, it's a lot.
Hmm.
I'm adjusting a lot to go and get everybody going and playing
Yeah.
this. But I do the same thing. I'm like, which is why I go alone so much because my long list is, you know, kind of getting a little flaky.
Shorter.
Yeah, right. So I
So,
go a lot
well, that's cool, man. You hit me up though next time if you want. I'll go to Arkansas with you. It'd be
for
fun.
sure.
Um, but that goes back into kind of um, finding those that are actually solid group of guys. So like a couple weekends ago, yeah, it was this past weekend. We were gonna go with me, Jacob, and Taylor were gonna go because Taylor got a brand new Gladiator. We're gonna go take it out or whatever. But Jacob's like, you know what, guys, I got to piece out early on Saturday, and then I think I had to work on Friday, and we were all just like in agreement, like, all right, let's just cancel this trip, and we'll come back to it when we're all 100%, you know, all day Friday till Sunday, and I respect that, and I'd rather people be honest in that respect, just so you could for a weekend trip, all day Friday and all day Saturday and come home Sunday, like that's worth it to me. But to go out for one night and just waste your days driving's pointless in my opinion. So
No, I agree with you 100%. I rarely, and this is odd too. Like I rarely do a weekend. I always do at least. I mean, 2 days is the short. 2 days is short for me. I mean, I'll usually try and make 4 to a week. I'll even try and go a week more because the 2 days is almost stressful. Like I can't even imagine one. You know,
well, you're not going to
you're like,
Colorado in a weekend, but if
but I mean, yeah.
sure, yeah. But like
I mean,
still, if you're driving, probably for you, it's probably a 7-8 hour trip just to get down to the Ozarks for
hmm
sure. Like maybe Mulberry area, whatever.
hmm
Um, and that's one day pretty much. So get down there and set up camp. Then what?
yeah. I don't
Go
want
to
to
OR Cafe and then head home.
drive a day to sleep and drive back. Yeah, I'm gonna drive a day to sleep on my roof and come back home. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not
It's
doing that.
Instagram pictures. You went camping.
They
That's
love it.
funny. So let's talk about Glade Top a little bit. How often have you been to Glade Top?
One time, went once.
Did Did you do right off 125? So like some of
Yep,
those trails, the
yep,
501s and all that stuff.
absolutely. Yeah, took some of the Forest Service roads in, hit some little Water Creek crossings, did Glade Top. You know, took on a couple of rocks. Nothing big.
What time of year did you go?
This would have been, I guess it would have been last. It would have been about. No, it wouldn't have been this time last year. Been a little about August last year, probably.
I was gonna say because I've gone down there in like January and February where it's
Hmm.
like super cold and no one's out there, and then I've been out there in the summer also. But it always seems like there's a ton of side by sides, which that's fine. You know, it's there for them too. But the trails, man, it's like these full size rigs, and I would consider us full size rigs compared to other, like especially side by side. The trail maintenance part kind of sucks because it's so small. And when I tell people like it's Pinstripe City, it doesn't matter what trail, it is Pinstripe City. And you know, you've got wider and wider vehicles that, you know, want to go do it, and then they just it's
But
inevitable you're going to get stripes all over the place.
well, and rutted, and it's rutted
Yes.
from those side by sides, narrow wheelbase,
Hmm.
and they spinning tires, like which is great for them. It's good for them, but it's when you're off camber almost the whole time because you're in this other rut
Hmm.
kind of deal.
It's a fun place to go, but it's
Absolutely,
I think a group of probably a couple different off-road groups need to go out there and decide, hey, we're going to clear some brush on these trails, uh, and I think we could probably organize something. Which I'm just my gears are going, which I don't need
for
anything
sure.
else added to my plate, but I think we could do it, and that'd help alleviate some of that future stuff. Whenever people are like, hey, you want to go Glade Top? We'll be like, not really, because the trails are so tight. But
They're tight. I mean, but that's Arkansas too. I mean, can be, can be
yeah,
Arkansas too. Not
yeah.
everywhere, but can definitely be.
Have you ever been down to the Ouachitas in Arkansas?
No, I haven't. And that's one thing we were just talking about is wanting to get down there, and I actually never have been down there.
Me neither. It's a lot further, obviously. You know, for us that are coming from the north. Um, but it looks really cool too. You know, the trails don't look crazy. I know in some spots they can get crazy, but for the most part, it looks like they're kind of just gravel roads with some nice pine trees growing. Um, but not unless that was just a picture from the pamphlet. But everybody else is like, yeah, man, super chill. You go down there and there's camping spots everywhere. It doesn't seem like they're crazy busy all the time, but probably more suitable for Subarus and cars. So that's pretty cool. I'd like to take a trip and just work my way south and then zigzag back north. That'd be really fun. Take like a week to do that or something, 5 days maybe, but that'd be really fun to do.
Yeah, it's definitely been on my list. It's I almost sometimes will catch myself always trying to go back to Arkansas to where I'm like, man, I got to quit putting my eggs in one basket and I got to go other places,
Yeah.
because eventually, for me at least, like I do not like driving more than 4 or 5 hours, so I'm still gonna end up stopping somewhere I'm pretty familiar with. And I'm like, man, I got to get somewhere else. But the Wachitas is definitely on our list coming up for sure. I haven't seen too much. I consume a lot of YouTube. I'm sure that's like pretty common. I just
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen a whole lot down there um, to kind of have an idea what it looks like. Because definitely Arkansas is a place where you definitely have to pay attention to the weather,
Yeah.
the rain specifically,
Yeah.
or you can
Yeah.
get caught up pretty
We
gnarly.
so when was this on Budge Overland YouTube, which is just I just throw my adventure trips up there. I try to capture the best I can or whatever I want. But anyway, back in April or May of this last year, we drove. There was a few of us from like the Springfield area. We kind of all met up. Brian went, and we were like, "Yeah, we're going to Arkansas," and it was raining, and we're like, "Ah, yeah, it'll be fine." Every trail we hit down there, the water crossings were flooded out. It was just, and I took ownership of it. I was like, yeah, I screwed up. So we ended up camping down there, just some random spot. It was still beautiful and gorgeous. Next day, no rain, but yet there was all the water crossings were still just impassable. And so we're like, oh, let's go to Glade Top. This was a weekend trip, so we spent the whole weekend pretty much driving and, $4 a gallon and all this stuff. It was just like that whole trip, just kind of. We had a good time. We tried to turn it around, and I think we did. It was just everywhere. Even Missouri was just saturated with like, muddy soil. So
Well, that's a tough one too because like I end up in this dilemma regularly. Like, then you end up in the tire discussion, like we live in Missouri, we go to Arkansas a lot. It's
Yeah,
definitely wet, but
yeah,
like, obviously there's some things you could do to make your life a little easier in those scenarios, but they make your life a little harder in other ones.
hmm,
So like that's definitely you pay attention to different weather, different places, and I think like in Arkansas you're 100% you're checking the water levels, not even the rain, like you're checking the water
yeah,
levels for sure.
yeah. And I guess I mean they're in a drought now and a burn ban in most areas. I don't think it's necessarily as bad as last year. If you recall, last year I think the entire state was rid of burn bans,
Mhm.
and that was around rendezvous time. Uh, so hopefully this year we could have some real fires out there. And if you remember, were you at rendezvous last year?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It was super, super windy and dusty. It was so dry. I remember getting out of those portable shower things they had over by the main stage, and within 5 seconds, a big gust of wind would blow all this dust on me. I'm just like, I quit. I was like, you
And
can
I
only do so
stayed
much.
I stayed Saturday night there too, and that was another one just like Big Iron. Everybody's like, "The
Hail.
weather's coming." And I was like, "Well, I'm not driving in it. I'm not from here." So like
No.
here I am. So but it was so yeah, we had hopefully we have two good events this year. Last year kind of with the heat at Big Iron, and then the weather did roll in for sure, and the same thing at Big
Mm-hmm.
Iron. Lots and lots of wind was screwing everybody's world up a little bit there for
Yeah.
sure. It was dry though, so that was good.
Yeah, I think it's great what what Chris is doing and what Randy's doing. They are 100% about the community, and I think it's fun to see that, especially with more expo and all that stuff. It's just I consider, I've got friends in Oklahoma, I got friends in all 50 states, I'm sure, but like the core, just these surrounding states, like you and your buddies, you meet up at Big Iron, and I don't know where they're from. I'm even if they're far away, you're like, oh hey man, what's up? It's like a little mini reunion, a little get together. That's what I love about it. Meeting new friends, adding new friends, and all that stuff. It's really fun.
And it'll make you wish that Missouri had anything,
Like
like
what?
like a natural state overland. Like they do that big bonfire. They
Uh,
do
Hey,
all
I've got
that.
something. I got something in the works for us Missourians. I just can't tell anybody yet. But
'Cause
consider this a hint.
all
But
right, thank you. Because we've got. I mean, there's not a whole lot. I mean, definitely, but we got more expo here. You'd think that
yeah,
there's definitely interest around. I mean, I see more and more this type of vehicle around now for sure.
hmm,
But you don't ever see too many. I mean, most people I go with are not. I mean, I have another couple friends from Missouri, but that's about it, really.
yeah. What about your area? They like Rigs and Coffee or anything you attend up there in Columbia area? Anything like
No,
that?
they do like really here. The car community's big, like the Go Fast car community is really big where I'm at.
Yeah,
Um, and there is cars and coffee and stuff. And
yeah,
it's a college town, so there's a lot of Jeeps, but not our type of Jeeps. But tons
sure.
and tons and tons and tons of Jeeps. Jeeps are extremely popular with the college crowd and MU's here, so but
Yeah,
nobody that has any interest in the too much of the functional side of four-wheel drives.
yeah. Do you even camp up in your area? It's pretty flat and boring
Yeah,
for the most part. I don't want to say that disrespectfully,
no,
but
you're
it's
fine. Lake of the Ozarks isn't too far away, so there is definitely a little bit to do at Lake of the Ozarks, especially with the kids. You can go down by the Missouri River and get again with the kids, but at that point, you know, it's not. I mean, it's camping. It's just camping with
sure.
the
Yeah,
kids,
yeah,
or something that's more accessible to other people. So I just go camping out here at times, but there's nothing till you get to Mark Twain
yeah. I think
south.
that's what's I think that's what's a big draw for a lot of us that like to go to Arkansas, and some people from Arkansas probably make fun of us for driving that far to come see them. But whatever, it's like once you pass like Branson, down south and all that, you are in the Ozark Mountains, quote unquote, and it is just love it. There's no other way to describe it. It's the closest thing we can get to Colorado without driving, 15 hours or whatever. But
Yeah,
definitely,
right. No, and I, I
definitely fun.
I definitely like, you'd think they'd say that, but didn't you interviewed the guy from Independence Overland not that long ago, and
Yeah,
he was just in Arkansas. I mean, he seemed to enjoy it.
yeah,
The
yeah,
only the only negative to Arkansas from Colorado is poison ivy, in my opinion.
yeah, for
You know,
sure.
like you don't have
Yeah,
that in Colorado. I'm not allergic to it, but I hear about it every time I go because somebody that I'm with is.
yeah.
So I always hear about it. But I mean, it seems like it's getting more popular. I think Matt obviously has
Hmm.
made that quite a bit more popular in recent years,
Yeah.
for
And it's
sure.
crazy to me the amount of people still that have not heard of Gaia or OnX, and it's like just today I was reading, I don't know which Facebook group it was, and some guy's just like, and I'm not bashing him, but he's just like, hey, what can I use to look up the maps and stuff off road? Is it Gaia or something, or not Gaia? Is it Garmin or something? I'm just like, I mean, first of all, use the search bar. I'm not getting on them, but it's just like, man, I figured by now everyone's heard of, those two. To at least
Absolutely.
try to start your search to figure out how to travel off road or on Forest Service roads, what's legal or illegal. But
Yeah, and I
that's
mean
where
I
we come into
use
play is educating people.
yeah, I mean I use tons. I mean so I was just out in Colorado a couple weeks ago, and I have a friend that lives out there. Um, and trails off road is real big out there, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
So that's a new one to me, but it really is locational too. Like if that guy's not, I think Gaia rules the Ozarks for
mm-hmm.
sure, by all means. But I didn't. I used Gaia out. Well, I have Gaia. I used Overlander
Mm-hmm.
and Onyx way more when I was out west,
Yeah, I've heard
actually.
that too.
So it's I've found that like it kind of depends on where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
What's kind of got more coverage, I guess would be the word. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm also a member of Overland Bound, and they have their own app, and it's like got a GPX overlay with Gaia kind of deal, and that's kind of that. I mean I use all of them.
Mm-hmm.
When you're trying to wild camp,
Yeah.
and you go to a spot and you're like, oh, that's taken. I mean, usually from there it's like, you know, it's
What?
it's what app's gonna find me something, that works. So, I found that Overlander is really great if you're like on the highway and you're an overlander camper person and you're trying to camp wild but like off a main road pretty well. I think Overlander is good for that. It just really, I found that it just really kind of depends on where you're at.
Yeah, that's true. I know the trails. Was it trails off road or off road trails? What's the one you said?
It's
It's
Trails Off Road, I believe.
Yeah, Trails Off Road. I know that they're really big. I've watched their YouTube. They've got YouTube videos, and what they do is they send like a driver out and an actual real person to record the trail. So every trail out there, someone has driven on.
It's
But
like
at the same
breadcrumbs.
time, yeah, I want to say like OnX is kind of the same way. Maybe I don't know. I don't know how this stuff works. It's so bizarre to me because sometimes if you're going, like if you have a saved file or saved area and you're real time driving, you could be quite a ways off from the trail that they're showing you. And a lot of people sometimes freak out about that. It's just like, nah, you just got to remind them, like, we're offline, first off, but it's kind of just going off here. But
Yeah, download your maps.
download your maps for sure. There's nothing worse than being in the middle of nowhere and have no idea where you're
Also,
going.
I use Google will find a grid. So I mean, I don't know if people on this podcast know that, but Google Maps will find a grid. So if you've got a grid off of, whatever, Google Maps, you don't always necessarily have to have much service for Google Maps to kind of point you in the right direction if you end up in a scenario.
Mm.
I've ended up in scenarios where like I'm trying to find a place and it starts to not necessarily exist. And,
Mm-hmm.
our cars are, well, my car is a 2020, so it's real smart. But your CarPlay will find your car and at least kind of orient you, kind of in
Nice.
the sense of like a azimuth almost, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where like, because I have definitely and not with Gaia, but with Onyx, it'll be like, it's right here. And you're like, I mean, I'm looking and that is
Mm-hmm.
death. Like, that's not
Yeah.
right there. Like,
Right.
it's just not there. So you're like, okay, I got to put this grid back somewhere else because something, it either glitched or downloaded inappropriately. Something happened.
Yeah.
Um, so I know that if you can get that grid, you can copy it and paste it into your Google Maps and it might not show a road, it might not show anything, but it can kind of show where you're at and where that's at.
Very cool. Yeah, that's
So
good.
that's a
I didn't know
thing.
that. Yeah.
Um,
As far as like offline stuff, do you have like an InReach or a Zolio or anything like that you communicate with?
Zolio for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I had previously I had a DeLorme InReach, which is the old one.
Hmm.
Um, that was from like forever ago. They were real popular in hunting communities. But I ended up going with the Zolio because I could text anybody. So like it's super nice. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that's if I was to talk about solo travel with anybody, I'd be like, that's one of the biggest things you should have.
that is true. I finally got one, and I used it. Me and Brian were kind of exploring our own backyards, south of Fort Leonard Wood, kind of Plato, Missouri area. If you've ever looked at the map, south, like all of the mid to southern part of Missouri is like all national forest. So we've got a lot in our own backyard. I think with a couple weekends here and there, we could go find some really killer spots. But anyway, we went camping a couple weeks ago, and I was just testing it out. I gave out a couple people my designated number. I gave my wife number so she could text me first and just, hey, how's it going? Then I would respond and just we were testing and make sure it worked. And I really like that, man. I'm paying for like, I don't know, the $20 a month one or something like that. I think it's 25 messages. So it's like you're not going to text off it for like everything, but it's good peace of mind to at least let people know where you're at. And I felt better too, because we had our kids. Brian brought his son, I brought my son. It was I had a better peace of mind for sure. And they're relatively inexpensive for what it is,
Well,
especially for solo camping. You need some kind of
absolutely.
communication. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like, and you can, and again, like being still a little bit in the hunt, you could put it on your person. Like it doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be in your vehicle.
Yeah.
Um, I and if you ever end up in a situation where this is one thing I looked at pretty heavily, like the service never ends. They'll just charge you if you use more. So like
Mm-hmm.
that kind of lends itself to like if you're in a situation, the device still supports you, So I like that too. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's one of those gadgets that I'm like when people are like, "What's the thing you never thought you'd have that you actually use all the time?" I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that's a huge safety piece. That and a first aid kit with like some decent trauma equipment is like probably high up on my list to like
Mm-hmm.
before a lift, maybe have a way to call somebody,
Save you.
Yeah.
That's all funny. I think it's funny how, um, and I think this comes with experience. You've been doing this longer than I've been doing it, but like watching people, I hate this term, but it's true, building out the rig, So they want the shovel, they want the roto packs, they want the bed rack or whatever, the wheels, the tires, the lights. They want it to look cool, but I just was thinking about this the other day. I was kind of the same way when I started out. I wanted all the cool stuff, so I'd throw it on my truck, whatever, make it look cool. But I was thinking to myself, it's like people put that stuff on their vehicle for a reason, and then the people like myself at the time that didn't know what all that stuff was like, oh, I could put this on my car and all this stuff. And then whenever you go to use it or something, it doesn't work because it's pretty much just junk or whatever. So it's kind of funny that somebody out there with these big overlanders or excursion vehicles or whatever expedition vehicles have all this stuff on there. It's there for a reason, and obviously, like a lot of people are like, "Well, yeah, duh." But I mean, if you look at some of the stuff that people are putting on their vehicle, it's like, yeah, that's not practical at all. I'm not poking fun at them because I was that person, but it's notice that stuff. If you're at a show or something,
Right.
just you might have an internal giggle or an internal laugh, but it's like
If it
I'm just
doesn't
throwing this. It is what it is, though. I just
if it
throw it out
doesn't
there because I
actually
thought
have
it was funny.
pinstripes on it, I don't know that I trust that any of it's been tested.
But
Like
man, it's got ceramic coating.
mine's ceramic coated. That does
Oh
not prevent scratches. Uh,
uh,
but yeah, you're right. I mean, and I think there is a niche, you know, kind of like I don't want to go like down in the weeds, but like people made those zombie apocalypse type vehicles there for a little bit. I think there's
yeah,
a little bit of a draw to just like that style of build.
maybe.
You
Yeah,
know, like I don't think, you know, some of those people just want their stuff to look expedition-y, you know, rescue
yeah,
crew-y, you know, kind of deal. Um, because you do see them and they got, you know, when you really wheel, you like, I always gauge that on wheel size. Like, if you've got 20s on your stuff, like,
yeah.
your thought process was just a little bit more on, you know, clout, probably,
Mm,
potentially. Because 20s, we all know, like, we're airing down. Like, you don't want to be airing down with, you know, thin sidewalls, you know? Like, that's
yeah.
just not what you want to be doing. Or deep dish
Well,
wheels or
yeah.
stuff
You
like
got
that. Like,
those low profile wheels with the low profile tires or whatever. It's like you're not gonna do anything with those. But
yeah. I
if it
mean,
looks cool and they like it, who cares? I guess.
yeah, whatever, man. Like, if that's what you're into, yeah, that's fine. It just, you could take you can, there's nothing against any different way of peeling that, you know, peeling that orange.
Yeah,
Just, you can start to understand is all. And I've
it's
been
all it
doing,
is.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. And you can also start to understand when you're looking through products. Like, I'm a huge consumer,
yeah.
but like, pay attention to what stuff weighs.
Hmm.
Like, for real. Like,
What
guys.
they weigh, what the warranties are, if there is such a thing as customer service. I mean, even before you buy it, call the number and see if somebody answers the phone.
If it's metal and it doesn't tell you what kind of metal,
Yeah,
find something that does. That's
yeah.
probably a good piece of advice.
And don't just trust anything. That's crazy,
No,
man.
right.
You could spend all day talking about this stuff,
Oh, I
and
could
it
easily.
fall on deaf ears, though.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's, we're on Budget Overland podcast, so like budget's a huge consideration.
Yeah,
But I mean, yeah. So I mean, there is an intersection of all of it. I mean, for sure.
yeah. I think I'm gonna do, and I say this, I want to do a vehicle walk around, and I might do it sooner than later because I've got everything out of my rig right now except for my drawer system. I emptied out my drawer system. I emptied out everything in my vehicle because I'm going back through it to kind of not only reorganize it, but I also want to take an inventory of what I've got and to make sure I've got it there. I've not done this since I built my drawer system 2 years ago, and between my loadout and then my wife and son's loadout with me is two different things. So I'm just kind of going through there. So whenever I'm back at, home base or whatever, I could take out their stuff, and I could still be familiarized where, all my stuff and items are. So that's what I'm really working on. Because sometimes, like my buddy, I am not that organized. I guess whenever it comes down to like a clean, tightly packaged vehicle. Like some people are on point. I'm not on point. I try really hard, but like I get really jealous when I look at my friends' rigs and they're like super dialed as to their load in and stuff. I'm just like, man, that'd be nice just to be a little bit more organized, I guess. But that's what I'm
Yeah,
working on.
that's a that's a tough. I always tell all my friends, they're like, "What's the biggest thing?" And I'm like, "It's organizing. It's
Yeah.
packing." You know, and form factors. Like, I always talk about that, like form factors of bags and things, like
Mm-hmm.
making stuff fit. It's all a big, because I started this when it was just the big, you know, black and yellow tubs in the back of the truck. And that
Yeah.
stuff, the black and yellow tub looked cool, but like you open that thing up and it looked like a
Yeah.
just a mess, you
Yeah.
know? And that's, I mean, I struggle with that exact same thing. I actually, my girlfriend goes with me 100% of the time. Like, whether my kids go or not, that does change. And I just actually have their stuff in a Plano box, like all their
Mm.
camping stuff just in a Plano box, so I can toss it in and
Nice.
take it, or not. I have my deck system. My one daughter sleeps on top of it. I got like a mattress for that, and the other ones are up in the roof with me. So that's no problem. Another thing is a dog. Do you ever take a dog?
I've got a little French bulldog, and she's perfect because she's like, the size of a football with legs. a chunky football with legs. But
Right.
I've kind of introduced her last year to go camp. She's been on 3 long trips with me, and like she's the best. Like she'll just follow me around. But I
Yep.
could pick her up, manhandle her, and throw her in the tent. Like some of these
That's
people
what
with big dogs, it's kind of a different story.
I get that question a lot. Like I have an Aussie Doodle, so it's a foo-foo
Mm-hmm.
dog, but um, not a big dog though. And a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
ask, what do you do with your dog? How do you do that? And not that he comes with me a lot, but has before. But a dog's another consideration for some of these folks. You talk about organization, like think of a big animal that's got to have a bed somewhere to ride in, or that's another
Yeah.
seat gone, I mean, organization is the name of the whole game, in my
Yep.
opinion.
I think I agree 100%. I think a lot of people realize that when they get burned out from this, thing called overlanding because of that reason, they can't function properly or they're stressed out because they can't find whatever, and then it's B, they feel like they need all this crap with them, but I feel like over time, if you start out kind of as a minimalist, you need food, water, shelter, vehicle, a place to go, whatever, map it out and have some cool little gadgets, whatever. But like you'll be like, hey, you know what? We could have used a winch that day instead of breaking our backs. Okay, save up your money for a winch or whatever. But slowly buy this stuff. Don't just go out and put on a credit card or something. People go into debt over this. It's like insane to me how much money there is that you could blow on this crap, and then now where's your gas money to go do anything?
I was actually just talking about this the other day, and I don't know if you agree or not, but like somebody was like, buy once, cry once. And I was like, man, I don't even know. I might be crying from buying the expensive thing that I don't need. Like, I don't even know that I need it. So
Yeah,
I'm always buying something that'll suffice to see if
yeah,
that's even a thing I want.
yeah.
Like for stoves, for instance, I started with a single burner before I went to a two. I don't know that I need a two.
Right.
I have one now, but I wasn't going to just go all in on that until I knew
Yeah.
that I needed it,
I think that's the worst advice when people say buy once, cry once, because if you did that with literally everything in your kit or everything in your vehicle, you could have some coin in that thing, and then like so you might not even like it. You might have spent $1,500 on a fridge, and you're like, oh crap, I only go twice a year. I could have just taken a cooler, but
Yeah.
I,
I
I
mean,
I don't know. On certain things, I could agree. Hey, yeah, you need to save up for quality, but don't just have that attitude for everything.
absolutely. Like, well, and when you look at quality, if you're dictating quality via price, I mean, you could just go through the roof with this
Oh yeah,
hobby now. I mean,
yeah,
through the roof. Like I said, I got a 75-liter fridge. I got it at REI with like a bunch of huge. I saved up a bunch of REI points. I got it
nice.
way off, but I had a 37 liter. Well, I still have it, a 37-liter fridge. And just going from a cooler to a fridge without having ice, you're like, oh, I can actually
Mm,
carry a lot more. But again, with always taking my girlfriend and the kids, I was like, I'm just gonna get the biggest thing I can get
yeah,
with all this money I can save.
yeah,
Um, but like, I wouldn't have started there ever.
no, yeah,
Never, never, never.
yeah. I need to talk to you about something off air, but I think that's a good point because um, you found that as a need, and especially doing this for as long as you've been doing, you understand like the melted ice and the slushies and the nasty food thing, and you're like, well, we're just gonna nip this in the bud and get a bigger fridge that works for everyone.
I use it to go to the grocery store before I go to work.
Yeah, I've heard that from people.
I
They're
use it
like, I
like
just leave it plugged in all day,
all the
and it's
time.
going. That's awesome.
I
I think
mean,
that's cool.
it's like a like I don't if I stopped this hobby, I would still have a fridge and a
Every
second battery.
the new Cybertruck's going to come out with a fridge, I guess, built into it. I'm just
Smart.
joking.
I
No,
mean,
they
yeah,
should.
yeah,
Someone's going to one day.
I'm
I
trademarking
mean,
it. Get off it, Cybertruck.
yeah. Well, dude, we've been chatted up for almost an hour. Is there anything you want to touch on real quick? I mean, we can spend all night if you want. I don't care.
I mean, I'm good. I just wanted to get on. I was like, I've been on for a while. I feel like I've been doing this for
Yeah.
a while. I mean, if anybody can get anything from it, I hope that they do. That they do. If you guys got to ask me any questions, I'm available on the group. My last name is Racinowski, so
I
it's
wasn't
super
even
long.
gonna try. I
Nobody
wasn't even
does.
gonna try.
Yeah, my last name's Racinowski. So you can find me on the group. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram as Charlie Raz, R-A-Z. You guys can always DM me, say, hey, I heard you on the podcast, or I saw you in the group. There's obviously pictures of my truck there. I probably downplayed it here. It's pretty built. Um, you'll see that. But ask me anything. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this quite a while, and go quite a bit. I'm not a podcaster or a YouTuber, so it's might not. It's
It
that's a
doesn't
different world
appeal to
of
you.
that's a different world of individual. But I'd say there's probably
Oh
300 of
gosh.
me for every one of those. I don't have a drone, if you guys wondered. Um, you know.
He knows I'm down here looking at my phone. He's like, oh crap. Oh good, Benji's occupied. I'll just bash his brains in.
But I'm just not, and I feel like I wanted to get on here to be like, hey, there's a lot of us out here, you know, and we love what all the influencers are doing, but they're not the only ones that have cool stuff and experience and go to these places. Like, hopefully more people like me can get on, inspire you guys to just go. Gasoline's the biggest cost, you know, just fill it up and go.
Just keep backpedaling there, man.
Yeah.
I'm just
I'm not.
kidding.
I'm not. I mean, I don't
No,
have the
I know you're
patience
not.
for video editing or any of this. I that
No.
would drive me up a wall, man. I couldn't do
Well,
it. I went
are
once,
you
and
gonna go? Go ahead.
I was to say
You went
I went
once and
once.
recorded a trip.
No, I've been with trying to, like, just even
Oh,
anybody trying to. It's a lot of stopping. It's just like I don't even know where to begin. I can't even imagine starting and learning. That's another hobby in itself, just in general. Like that's just its own
yeah.
hobby. Like videography and
That's
photography is its own world that I don't
it is.
understand.
Yeah. I yeah, watching Baker's stuff is insane. Watching some of these bigger YouTuber guys is
His most recent
insane.
video about his
Yeah.
unique experience, that's
Yeah.
storytelling. Like I camp,
Dude, that's
guys.
what he
Yeah, I'm a dude. I'm just a dude that camps.
yeah.
Like I don't tell
Love it.
stories with videos yeah, that's crazy. That's awesome, and that's its own level of talent there for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So at Rendezvous, all right. So I'm gonna just shamelessly plug both of these. So at Big Iron, there's a budget overland meetup that Friday, I believe, at 5:30 p.m. I think it's that Friday. I think. And then, yeah, okay, yeah, and it's at Ed Geeson and Galen and Justin Williams. They're gonna be at Ed's tent with a big giant flagpole, and it's got the Christian Off Road Association Club. So look for that. They're going to be hang out there. You guys, whatever. I don't know what you're going to do. I'm not going to go there this year. I'm not going to be able to make it, but you guys are more than welcome to hang out. But at Rendezvous in the Ozarks, I will be there Friday the 13th at 7 p.m. We are going to do a BO hangout, maybe do a live recording for shenanigans. I don't know. But we're going to do a ton of giveaways, which is really cool. So whenever you show up, be sure you grab a ticket for that little hangout spot. It's not the ticket for Rendezvous in the Ozarks. It's just a ticket for that hangout, and we're going to draw ticket or numbers at the end of the thing. Morflate's donated a bunch of stuff. Hess is donating a pillow. Justin's bringing some cool stuff. We've got all sorts of fun little stuff we're giving out. Overland Spices has donated a bunch of spices. So it's just really cool. Make sure you guys show up for the BO Hangout at Rito at 7 in front of the main stage. Any other final words of wisdom, Charlie?
Nothing. Get out and go.
Get out, go. Man, I appreciate you coming on the show. Definitely have to do a trip together. It'd be fun. I didn't realize how close we were. But, yeah, man. Appreciate you. Guys, tune back in on Monday for Overland Shenanigans. And don't forget to go leave a review over at Budge Over the Podcast. I'll quit talking. Have a killer day. See ya. Bye-bye.